You've probably heard the name Rothschild, the banking family that financed Europe's wars and steered politics from behind the scenes. But very few people know that a similar story unfolded in the East. That family was the Sassoons. They set out as exiles and became financiers. They began as merchants and turned into kings of trade. They built vast fortunes from goods the world demanded, but governments officially condemned. Long before the term global economy even existed, they had already learned how to control it. The story of the Sassoons doesn't begin in London or New York. It begins in Baghdad, part of the Ottoman Empire, at the start of the 19th century. David Sassoon was born in 1792. His father was the treasurer of the Ottoman governor. For generations, the Sassoons had been successful Jewish merchants, managing trade routes stretching from Basra to Persia. They understood trade well, but in empires, wealth always attracts suspicion. When power balances shifted, the Sassoons fell out of favor. Wealth turned into danger. Persecution began. In 1829, David Sassoon fled Baghdad with almost nothing except his family, his faith, and his knowledge of trade. His journey ended in Bombay, a humid, crowded colonial port under British control. It wasn't the capital, but it was one of the empire's main arteries. For a refugee, Bombay was both exile and opportunity. David had no diploma, no title, no land. But he possessed something far more valuable: experience. Before the concept of supply chains even existed, he already understood them. He knew what Britain wanted, what India could produce, and what China would buy. And he knew a harsh truth of commerce. Where there is instability, there is profit, as long as you have the courage to stay while everyone else runs. He started with small things: cotton, yarn, textiles, anything that could pass through the ports. But he did something different. He built trust across cultures. He hired Jewish, Indian, and Arab merchants. He spoke multiple languages, and he understood that real empires are built not on contracts, but on relationships. In a city divided by caste, religion, and colonial hierarchies, he built a network that ignored borders. Then came the product that would make him rich and infamous: opium. The British East India Company already controlled the trade. Opium produced in India was sent to China, where addiction spread rapidly. The Chinese state had banned it, but demand never disappeared. Smuggling became the shadow economy of the 19th century. Sassoon did not run opium dens or command smuggling ships. He stayed one step behind. He financed the trade. He insured it. He supplied it. He became the banker behind the merchant and the merchant behind the empire. David Sassoon and Co. became one of the financial and logistical backbones of Britain's China trade. In the 1,840 seconds, his ships sailed under the British flag, and his warehouses were filled with goods bound for the East. Critics said he was profiting from suffering. Defenders argued that this was simply what empires had always done, turning chaos into order and immorality into cash flow. Whatever the moral perspective, the outcome was clear. David Sassoon had become one of the richest men in Asia. One of the richest men in Asia. One of the richest. By the 1,850 seconds, he was financing factories, building ports, and constructing textile facilities that employed thousands. He built synagogues, hospitals, and schools, many of which still stand today. He didn't just move goods. He built infrastructure. This was the quiet genius of the Sassoon model. Profit was not the goal. It was the tool. Every pound earned from opium or cotton was converted into something tangible: land, ports, or industry. And the strategy worked. When the American Civil War cut Britain's cotton supply, Indian cotton became vital, and the Sassoons controlled it. When Chinese silver flooded the markets, they managed the exchange. Global crises became their local opportunities. But success also creates enemies. The East India Company distrusted them. Chinese authorities despised them. Rival families tried to weaken them. Yet the network held because it was built on family. David sent his sons from Baghdad to Hong Kong, from Shanghai to London. Each of them established a new branch of the business. They weren't just merchants. They were ambassadors of capital. Wherever the British flag went, the Sassoons financed the journey. When David Sassoon died in 1864, his fortune spanned continents. His name meant reliability in both London and Hong Kong. As the century approached its end, the family evolved again. Opium declined. Finance grew more complex. The Sassoons became bankers, developers, and philanthropists. They built landmarks in Shanghai, luxury hotels in India, and investment companies in London. They became respectable, almost untouchable. But history moves forward. The empire weakened. Nationalism rose. Trade routes turned into fault lines. Then came 1929. The Great Depression shattered global trade, but the Sassoons adapted. Still, the age of family empires was ending. Corporations replaced dynasties. War and revolutions scattered the family. After the war, their influence faded quietly. The name remained, but the power was gone, yet the legacy remained. The Sassoons proved that money can move faster than politics. They showed that networks can outlive nations. They taught that empire is built not only with armies, but with credit. That's why they were not servants of the empire, they were its bloodstream. And this story mirrors the world we live in today. Modern giants don't conquer land, they conquer markets. The structure is the same. Only the tools have changed. The Sassoons rose because they understood risk. They fell because they mistook stability for permanence. And they left us a warning. When money becomes the only passport, when profit becomes the only principle, history doesn't remember your intelligence, it remembers your consequences. If this changed your perspective, subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.